All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Ebonie again, a.k.a. Fit Mom Diva of Simplicity Health Style. And today we have Miss Alena with us. How are you, Alena?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share some jewels with my community. Those of you that choose to stick around to the end, you'll have an opportunity to earn a complimentary gift. So I encourage you to stick around to the end to see what she wants to share with us today. So Alena, let's get to know you a little bit. Share with us one motivational quote that really inspires you, something that encourages you and gets you going.
Okay, so the quote I want to share, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. It is Naira Rahid, and it says, "You will be lost and unlost over and over again. Relax, love. You were meant to be this glorious, epic story." And the reason I want to share that is because in life, and as I'll talk about a little bit more with my blog, Art Undone, you find out that you'll be done and then you'll be undone. You'll be raveled and then you become unraveled. And I think that's just a true testimony to what life is. It's a roller coaster. You're not going to have all the highs. You're not going to have all the lows. It's kind of a mix of both. And deciding to live is deciding to accept those terms.
Yes, yes, yes. Acceptance, because none of us live a life that's just purely at peace all the time and nothing goes on around us. I think that it's important to understand how to live through those circumstances so that you're not on a constant ebb and flow of emotions where you're a wreck one day and the next day you're experiencing the biggest highs. You know, being able to navigate life, knowing that that's a part of life, is key. Otherwise, you'll be moody one day and happy the next, and the people around you are going to be like, I don't really want to hang out with Alena because she don't know how she wants to feel every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit about a time when you didn't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel? Maybe it was one of those moments that wasn't particularly glorious, and you had to overcome some external circumstances and obstacles, but at the end of the day, you were able to see yourself through to your goal.
So I would say my overall journey of like learning more about myself, really becoming art, happened, I want to say 2.5, 2 years ago, when I experienced like my first major breakup. And the reason why I say that was a struggle point is because for the longest time, I was so invested in someone else, I didn't know much about myself. So I thought I knew everything. I never really understood that quote of, working on myself or trying to be a better person. I was like, I'm a good person. I graduated from college. I've done all these amazing things. Like, I don't need to get to know myself. I am me. However, at that point, I didn't know how to make myself happy. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how I needed to be loved. And that was kind of a kickoff point for me to kind of learn more about myself, as well as accept me for me, accept the stuff that I am good at, accept the stuff I'm not good at, and kind of just go from there.
Yeah. And I believe that sometimes it does take pain or tragedy for us to wake up and say, well, wait a minute, who am I? And what am I about in this world? Because this can't be, the worst thing that has ever happened and is going to happen, where I can't move through the rest of my life. So I think that sometimes just remembering your worth in those difficult situations, just as you just mentioned, I think that will help you to stay centered, and also reaching for support from people around you.
Definitely having people around me. I think what was my breaking point was I wasn't able to think for myself. Like, I always had to have someone's input, or because so long I had my ex-boyfriend's input, or if it was a simple solution, I didn't have the thought processes to figure it out myself. And that was telling me that I didn't know myself. I didn't know how I felt about things. So taking out the time and really doing the work to figure out, what makes me happy, what doesn't make me happy, what I like about myself, what I don't like about myself, and really honing in on stuff like that so I could start thinking for myself, because you can't really make decisions if you don't know how you feel about stuff, if you're always going out to other people and reaching out for, advice and stuff like that. And that kind of developed into what I have now, which is my Undone blog. And what that is for me, it's kind of like a love letter to myself, as I like to call it, because I started listening to myself and I started writing to other people, but in the same sense, I was healing myself while I was doing it. So like all the advice I was giving to people, I was kind of giving to myself. And it became something where it was like, I can share what I'm learning with somebody else, which I love to do. I love helping people, but I also can help myself at the same time.
Yes, and that's what we're all doing. Well, all of us that want to grow, that's what we're all doing when we write our blog articles and we put content out there into the world. Nobody ever has it all figured out, and nobody has arrived, because we are growing until the day that we die. Most of us, right?
Yes, I always like to make the joke that my great grandmother, who's like 90, she won't hear this, that she's still learning, like she's still growing, and it's unrealistic to think. I think, especially as somebody who's in their 20s, and after you get out of college, you're like, I'll get a job. I'll meet a guy if I want to meet a guy or whatever, and I'll have it fixed. I'll be done. I'll have it. Like I reached that level. So what we're kind of selling is this dream that by 30 years old, you're going to have everything together. So then if you live till you're 80, that's 50 years of you just having everything together. That is so unrealistic to think of. And life is not like that. And that's why I put art undone, because I always felt like, and I heard from people a lot that, oh my gosh, you have it all together. No, I do not. I'm a masterpiece, but a masterpiece is like not always finished, So yeah. I do have beautiful parts to me, but I'm still working on it. I'm still figuring it out. And I think it's okay. The word undone kind of freaks me out, but it's true. Like we are undone, and we won't necessarily ever be completely finished. We may get to a higher peak,
Right.
So I think it's just important that we're just a little bit more honest with ourselves, and give ourselves a little bit more leeway to stop thinking that we have to have everything perfect, right. But just continuously moving forward.
Yeah, and I honestly think that if everything was done, and this is just how it was going to be for the rest of our lives, there would come a point where we're just sitting there like la-di-da-di, twiddling our thumbs and bored.
Yeah.
So I think that as much as some people don't necessarily feel like they want to go through discomfort when they're going through it, if we removed all discomfort and everything in its right box and everything figured out, it would be like, well, what is the challenge in life?
Yeah.
What else is there? So I think that having that mindset right there, that life is a series of ups and downs, and that you can still live a joyful life and a happy life even in the midst of that, by just changing your perspective of what's going on and understanding what those particular moments are teaching you to help you to grow into your best self.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely consider myself an optimist. I love thinking of stuff in the most like positive light as much as I can. So that's why taking that experience that I had and kind of flipping it, it's like, okay, well, I can't change what happened. I don't want to change what happened at all.
Right.
How can I make this better? How can I become better from it? What lessons can I learn? What lessons do I not want to learn again? And kind of taking that and running with it. I feel like at the heart of it, I'm a creator, so I like to create stuff. If there's a problem, I like to create a solution. And that's kind of where my blog came into play, was that was my solution for now. And now I'm seeing that now that that problem is solved and my blog is continuously to blossom, I'm able to like give myself freedom to be even more creative in more avenues. And it's a good feeling because right now I'm in like a transitionary period where I'm growing creatively as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that once you become more self-aware and understand how you can utilize your gifts, so for you, that's creativity. So understanding how you can utilize your gifts, you'll be able to fill your world with more things that are going to bring you fulfillment, as opposed to if you really didn't understand yourself and you were always looking outside for external validation on this idea and that idea, and they don't know you. If you don't know yourself, how can somebody else know you better than what you should really be knowing yourself?
Exactly.
When you really stop and think about it, they only know the little bit that you might show them, and they probably even don't even really know themselves that well. You know?
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. It's a process though, because every day you like learn and unlearn stuff about yourself, about the people around you. And as you grow as a person, you have to sometimes redefine some of those relationships that you had with different people because you don't
Yeah.
feel the same, or certain things make you or trigger you or stuff like that. So it's constant a constant change. But I will say, as you were talking about, support is so important. Having those people around you that embrace your growth and want to grow with you and support you in that growth, that's definitely been a game changer for me.
So speaking of support and growth, we all know that it's a lot easier sometimes to grow when you do have a support team and you work together as part of a team. As we know, teamwork makes the dream work a lot of times. But sometimes people feel like, well, I have clarity in what I would like to do in life, and I've known this since I was a young child, but I don't feel like I have the level of support that I really need to get this dream off the ground. So what are some ways that people that are struggling, trying to find somebody to help support them in their dreams and endeavors, to be able to gain that circle that they've been looking for?
Yeah, I will say it's not the easiest thing, and I'll say that I'm privileged in having a very large tribe of people that I can turn to at any point. So this is me talking from a point of privilege, because I know it's not always easy to go out and find a best friend or somebody you can completely trust and support. But I will say the best thing anybody can do is be their authentic self. And allow people to come in and know them for them. Whatever your journey is, whatever you want to do, it's important that you're you while you do it. Because as you're growing and as you want to, involve yourself in new projects, if you're not your authentic self, somebody can't support you the way you need it to be supported. So I would say open up yourself to opportunities to meet new people. I know when I meet new people, I'm very outgoing to my friends, but I'm very also, shy when it comes to meeting new people. Just taking out the time to put yourself out there is going to be a risk. It's never going to be comfortable to, put yourself out there because, rejection's on the table. Nobody likes rejection. But at the same time, I got this from a podcast and I kind of reworded it, but I tried is better than a what if. Yeah. So if you never try, how will you know what would happen? You can just say, well, what if this happened? What if that? Well, you haven't tried, so you don't know. Social media is a great place to kind of start to build your support system. I know there's a lot of bots out there. I know there's a lot of, fake accounts and stuff like that. But as I said, realness will attract realness. So right. As long as you're yourself and you keep on pushing and you're diligent, those people will be attracted to you. Just give it a little bit of time. And then another thing is just with support, sometimes you have to be that friend that you want other people to be for yourself. And I know that's hard, but at times, you have to think, well, what do I want from everybody else? Am I providing that to myself? Or am I looking for everybody else to do that? I'll say literally just last week I was on social media looking for inspiration. Like, oh my gosh, I need this quote. I need something to tell me to like write more or do this project. And I literally had to stop myself and say, like, Alena, you have all these words in your head. You have all this motivation, all this inspiration. If you need to, write it down. Tell yourself this. You have a lot of what you want other people to give to you.
Yeah.
You just have to find it, and you have to know that you have it, and stop shortchanging yourself and think somebody else is going to provide it to you when you already have it in your suitcase. All you have to do is unpack it. Like,
Yeah. And that is so true. I think that we forget that a lot of times we have exactly what we need within, and all it takes is just taking a step back sometimes and really reflecting on our lives and the amount of expertise and the gifts and the talents that we already have, and begin to utilize that. Like, look at yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself the same way that you would put that inspiration back out into the world. I think that we could be our own teachers and our own coaches, and we're sometimes looking for inspiration, as you were, online or from other people, when if we just were to sit and journal, for example, we just journal all the good things that are happening in our life and all of the things that you might tell somebody. You just begin to write it down and then begin to read it. You're reading to yourself. You're teaching yourself the same way that you would be teaching somebody else.
I definitely agree.
It could be just that simple, but we don't always think that way. We're thinking in terms of, how can I inspire somebody else or teach somebody else, change somebody else, when we have all the right tools to tell ourselves. Look at yourself in the mirror, write it down on paper, read it back to yourself, and allow it to sink in. Be a sponge to your own words.
Yeah. I was reading this article on Curiosity. It's an app I like to use when I'm trying to avoid social media. And it was talking about how essentially people listen to the advice they give to others. So like when you're reading something, you may just read it and be like, oh, that's cool. But to say like, I wrote something and I gave you advice and it's down on paper, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Maybe I should take my own advice.
Right.
And I also think that people tend to forget, like, and that's why I'm so glad I created this blog that has like, arsenal of things I've said, because sometimes I'll go back and read and say like, oh my gosh, I said that. I need this right now. What am I doing? I forgot about this. Like, I already learned this lesson. Like, it was here and I forgot. Like, life has so many obstacles it throws you. You sometimes forget how much progress you made or what lessons you learned. So yeah, a journal is really good. I'm not that good at journaling, but I'm good at typing. So that's kind of how I use my blog to help other people and help myself as well. And, you can take voice notes and stuff like that just to kind of, remember some stuff you kind of forget that you may have already learned.
Yes. For the blogging community, it is interesting when you go back and you read some of your old content and you're like, wow, I know I've done that. I look back at some old stuff, I'm like, wow, I wrote all that. And yeah, it might be something I needed to hear at that particular moment. And all, like, I wrote that though. So
exactly.
It's definitely something that people should take into consideration, to have a collection of your thoughts and just go back and read through them at certain times. And if you're somebody that you prefer not to write or type, just talk to yourself in a tape recorder and listen to those messages back later on via tape recorder. Whatever it is that's going to allow you to understand that you don't always have to seek outside of yourself to find the answers. You have all the answers already. It's just a matter of waking up to being more responsive to listening to your own self. That's what I really think that it is for most of us, and we don't necessarily realize it.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about the relationship between self-care and living out our purpose and utilizing our gifts. Because as we're talking about becoming self-aware and listening to ourselves and reflecting on old ideas and words that we've spoken to others, sometimes we don't necessarily feel at our best when we're not taking the best care of ourselves. So can you talk a little bit about any type of self-care that you do for yourself and any kind of tools or encouragement that you might want to give to somebody else to help them in that area?
Sure. So one thing I just discovered, I want to say in July, and I'm completely obsessed with right now, is painting. That's definitely self-care for me. I love painting. More so, I love the freedom of painting. Not much thought goes into it. I can let my mind wander. That's one thing. Another thing that I realize helps me out is, and it depends on who you are and what you like to do. But when I go work out, I can't think. I have to do. I have to either be counting or I have to be dancing to music, but I can't really think. And that kind of takes me out of my own head and allows me moments of clarity. As well as self-care is different for everybody.
Yeah.
My top three, of course, is painting, watching The Office. I'm really obsessed with that. As well as just, taking out some time to be thought free. Because deciding to work on yourself is work. So sometimes you have to turn that off and say, I'm not doing this today. I am not going to hound on every decision I made that I may not be happy with. I'm just going to allow myself to be. A quick story, not too long ago, I had a fall, and I wasn't able really to do much. I wasn't able to go to the gym like I wanted to. I wasn't able to go out. I wasn't able to do what I normally do. And it was hard for me. And I had to really focus on self-care. So I was able to paint a little bit more. And then some days I just had to sit down and do nothing, nothing at all. And I had to tell myself, okay, you're a player on the team, but right now you're on the bench. And it's okay to be on the bench. It's okay to watch for a while. And don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad that you can't always be in the game. That's fine. There's always going to be a halftime. Yeah. Somebody's always going to have to take a break. It's okay if you can't always be in the game. And self-care is being self-aware of that. Yeah. So however, you get through your day, just taking out those times. I know when I'm dealing with family stuff, I'll go to a restaurant by myself. I'll be like, I'll be back in an hour. Yeah. I won't tell anybody. Just making myself a priority. And I think that's what self-care is. But the definition definitely, changes per person. But those are some of the things that I do.
Yes, and I think that the more often that you do things for yourself, the more that you can give and serve other people too. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say. And so when you're depleted and you have all these different things that you need to do in your day and all these different people that you might need to attend to, you can't necessarily serve at your best when you're feeling rugged and run down. And I think that you said something very key, where you should feel okay and not feel guilty with taking time and just sitting on the bench. Because as we see in almost every sports game, there are times when there's somebody that's sitting on the bench. And that's okay. They're going to be right back in the game later. But for the time being, take time and recharge and let somebody else do the thing. I think that that's key. And that is particularly key for people that love what they do sometimes, because when you love what you're doing, you're wanting to do it. And some people can fall into the category of them being a workaholic, where they feel guilty when they're not doing what they love. So it's a very good balancing act of doing what you love, putting that into the world, but then also taking the time to just relax for a minute. And when you come back to that work, a lot of times you have more clarity and focus than if you just press through the moment.
Yes, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Just I feel like I've learned so much via painting, but it's like when you're doing a paint piece, right, and you finish it and it looks one way to you and you're like, okay, I either like it or love it. And then you come back and maybe you tilt it a little bit and it looks different, but you wouldn't have seen it differently had you not taken a break from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That's a excellent analogy. And it's the same thing with written communication. You might be
Mhm.
writing a blog or writing anything. It could be school related. And when you
Yeah.
take a step away and then come back and reread it, you catch all the errors and you're like, oh wait, I could have said this a different way, or oh, maybe I should expand on it this way. You begin to
Yeah.
see those more clearly. So it's the same thing with you walking through life. You begin to see different things about yourself more clearly and come back with a better sense of direction and focus than if you had just sat there and pressed through it and tried to act like Superwoman. you know I appreciate you so much for talking about this today. And for those of you that are listening, if you have life experiences that you want to share with us, I would love it if you contacted me. You can talk about your most vulnerable challenges to your best successes. You are going to be able to impact many lives. Any woman that wants a life full of meaning and purpose will understand what your challenges are, even if they haven't gone through it, because we all have challenges. And I think that it's important for us to talk about those so that we have a sense of connection with each other so that people don't feel like they're all alone. And then also celebrating our successes. Sometimes people are too afraid and not bold enough to say, yes, I did that. With all the growth and the progress involved, sometimes it's a good thing to say, yes, I did that. And I want to share it with others. So for anyone that wants to contact me and share your story or share your challenges, I would appreciate it. All of my contact info is in the description box. And you can also reach out to Alena. She's very welcoming of people to collaborate with on creative endeavors. Alena, can you just tell us a little bit about the type of person that you would love to collaborate with the most and how you can begin to collaborate with those people to make a bigger impact in this world?
Cool. I love collaborating with people who are positive, who are creative, who aren't afraid to challenge my ideas and make it better. As well as, anybody who wants to amplify the mission and the purpose of the fact that we're all growing, we're all working on it. We might as well work on it together. That's really big to me. So that's one thing I would love to collaborate with. I love to just talk to people too. And all have interesting stories. Let's share them together. Let's become better together. So that'd be really great.
And for those of you that follow her, all her information's in the description box. But for those of you that follow her, you'll see her very keen interest in the art world. Can you just real quickly, Alena, just touch on real quickly how you use art and what your intention is behind your social media presence?
Okay, so art is me, of course, and I have two main pages. It's Art Undone. That's my blog site where I talk about everything like from celebrating, traveling, living, and just working on it, as well as Artdacity. That's a new page. That's where you can find all my abstract paintings, what I'm doing, just trying to, not being fearless in the fact of failing and making it beautiful, or not knowing if I'm going to fail and still making it beautiful. And I like to do that through Artdacity. So that's Artdacity. I can be found on Instagram on both of those, Art Undone and Artdacity, and on Facebook, Art Undone.
Awesome. And as I said, you guys don't have to go get a piece of paper and pen and jot that down. All of that's in the description box. I would say definitely be welcome to collaborating with her and following her journey. And for those of you that don't fully understand your life purpose, or you understand what your life purpose is, but you want a little bit more support from purpose-driven women, I also encourage you to join my Nutrition for Busy Women Facebook group. It's nutrition, the number 4, busy women. And that link is also in the description box. It's a community of women that are all about supporting each other in our endeavors. And we are not just in there talking about nutrition from a food consumption standpoint. We're also talking about nutrition for the mind, body, and soul. So I would encourage you to join me as well. And you will earn a complete career assessment and life purpose assessment that's going to look at your true personality type as well as your strengths and your gifts so that you can regain focus and begin to actually live in your life. Alena, do you have any last words of encouragement before we close?
I just want to say to everybody, life is not easy. make it as fun as possible. While you're working on it, at least you're working on it. You're doing something. Don't be so hard on yourself. We're all undone to a certain extent, but we're still all masterpieces, so take a day break if you need to. If you need to work harder, work harder. The best person who knows you is you, and good luck.
Yes, thank you. Best wishes to everybody that's listening. And I truly believe that this content can encourage your family and friends as well. So be sure to share this out with them. And again, if you would like to share anything that you're going through or anything that you believe that could touch someone else's world, please reach out to me. I would love to have you. Until next time, I want you guys to remember to live a life full of meaning and purpose. I'll see you in the next episode.